Electric car sales in China have just exceeded 50% for the first time in history. This is an enormous indicator of what's to come. If you want to know the future, keep watching. The Chinese government predicted this would happen by 2028. And if I'm not mistaken, we're now in 1984, utterly smashing that prediction then. Let's run through what's happened, why it matters, and what it means for the entire auto industry. But I'll give you a clue, it ain't good news if you make engines. There are 420 million vehicles on China's roads. They are world leaders for the sheer volume of vehicles in their country, all of which will gradually be replaced over the coming years with, guess what? Not internal combustion engines, but battery electric vehicles. This will obviously have a massive positive impact on local air pollution, be great for China's economy, unlike most other countries that have quite frankly missed the EV revolution boat, the consequences of which will plant China further on the map for innovation, manufacturing and exporting its cars to a global market that can't quite compete as usual. Tesla, though, had the foresight and capable leadership to allow them to build the first foreign-owned automotive factory in Shanghai. A triumphant win in the faces of Legacy Auto, who were forced to partner with Chinese-owned companies in order to build the cars there. Those legacy companies that rely on selling internal combustion engines in China, there's no other way to say it, they are screwed. Volkswagen, Toyota, Nissan all relied on selling cars to China, but have lost those sales to the emergence of Chinese EV companies such as BYD, Geely, SAIC, NIO, XPeng, Polestar, Zeekr, Xiaomi, Xiaomi, I don't know how to say it, Xiaomi, maybe Xiaomi, MG and others. Yes, even MG are China owned now, hence we are getting reasonably priced and pretty decent electric cars from that very old British car company Morris Garages, aka MG. Although I'm not sure how many folks realise that MG was bought in 2007 by SAIC, a 100% Chinese government owned company. The end result? Brand new MG4s for less than £20,000 in the UK today. Not bad for a 200 plus mile range electric car. China's retail sales of new energy vehicles, NEVs, continue to rebound in July, with penetration exceeding 50% for the first time. NEV, by the way, is a new energy vehicle, China's classification of electric cars, if you like. PHEV is plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, BEV is battery electric vehicle, which are the ones that really count. In July, retail sales of passenger NEVs in China totaled 879,000 units, up 37% year on year and up 3% from the previous month, according to preliminary data released today by the CPCA, which is the China Passenger Car Association. The figure is higher than the 860,000 unit estimate released by the CPCA on July 26th. So far this year, China's cumulative retail sales of passenger NEVs totaled 4.991 million units, so practically 5 million units, up 34% year on year. Barring any major adjustments to the final CPCA figures, this means that China's NEV penetration at retail exceeded 50% for the first time in history in July, up from 48.4% in June. What does all this mean for the future then? Well, new energy vehicles could reach 60% by the end of this year. They could reach possibly 80% by the end of next year. But what do you think this means? We are rapidly getting to and exponentially growing towards a 100% new energy vehicle sales in China. This will mean that the internal combustion engine market in China is dead, extinct, gone forever. Nobody wants them. But why does China matter, I hear you not ask? Well, Inside EVs reported that Chinese brands will sell a third of the world's cars by 2030. The threat of Chinese EVs is very real, with one consulting firm calling it a rude awakening for legacy car companies. It goes on to say, after being largely irrelevant on the global stage historically, Chinese car companies are coming to eat the world's lunch. That's not exactly news at this point. President Joe Biden's steep new tariffs announced in May thrust the meteoric rise of China's electric vehicle industry into the mainstream conversation. From a long list of increased tariffs, Chinese EVs will get slapped with a 100% tariff in the US, up from 25% previously. In the EU, new tariffs on individual manufacturers range from 17.4% to 37.6%, which is on top of a 10% duty that was already in place for all electric cars imported from China. Fair game or anti-competitive? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're there, chuck us a like. Thanks. But we're learning more and more about the threat that cheap and high-tech Chinese EVs pose to established players like Ford, General Motors, Volkswagen and even Tesla. A new report from the consulting firm Elixir Partners projects that Chinese automakers will gobble up 33% of the global car market by 2030, up from around 21% today. Put simply, 1 in 3 cars sold in 2030 will come from a Chinese brand, up from 1 in 5 today. What portion of the entire auto market do you think Tesla might have by then? Factoring in the upcoming $25,000 car plus dedicated robo-taxis. Given that 92 million vehicles were sold worldwide in 2023, Tesla would need to sell over 9 million cars for just 10% of the entire auto industry. Doable by 2040? Well, yes, if they get a wriggle on. To anyone paying attention to the EV revolution who isn't blindsided by mainstream media nonsense about the weight of EVs collapsing car parks and bridges, or that EVs are more often than not on fire, despite all data showing that internal combustion engines are at least 20 times more likely to catch fire, by the way. If we can at least agree that EVs are far cheaper to own and maintain, do receive their electricity from an ever-increasing renewable energy grid, if not your own solar panels. And if we can also agree that, as China is showing us, the cost to build EVs, therefore the purchase price, is plummeting fast. These things are all important indicators of what's really going on. Why is it that so many people are switching to EVs and will never look back? Take Norway, for example, where 92% of car sales are electric vehicles, 90.1% are full electric, so those battery electric vehicles, and just a mere 2% are plug-in hybrids. And of course, a major contributing factor that allows for cheaper EVs is the decline in battery costs. Raw materials such as lithium, copper, cobalt and nickel are all at historical lows. Plus, battery energy density has improved no end. For the same capacity battery, less materials are now needed, and this will only improve in the future. Manufacturing EVs is still relatively in its infancy. Many cost savings have not yet been found, but with internal combustion engines there are no more cost savings to be made. They have reached peak affordability, and with collapsing global sales, forecourts filling up with unsold prehistoric technology, and CEOs with their heads firmly stuck up their own exhausts, by 2030 it's over. Sales of new internal combustion engine vehicles will just be dead. But what do I know? I'm just another plonker on YouTube. Far better to follow mainstream media's advice and reports of things like this. EV industry on the brink of collapse. Have a butcher's next. I'm Will, this is the Tesla Jigsaw. Thank you patrons and thank you for watching. Bye for now.